Hello, Mike Kako, and good afternoon. Mahalo for joining today's AEN hearing. It's Friday, April 4th, 2025, and we are convened in room 224 in video conferencing, which includes the audio and video of remote participants. It's being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event that this hearing is cut short, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business on Monday, April 7th at 1:01 p.m. during AEN's time slot, and a public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. And because of our 90-minute time limit for the hearings, there'll be a 2-minute time limit for all testifiers. And we'll start off with Governor's Message 509, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Environmental Advisory Council, gubernatorial nominee Jay Stone, for a term to expire June 30th, 2028. First up to testify is the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, Mary Alice Evans. Good morning. Good afternoon, Mary Alice.
Good afternoon, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards, and Member Rhodes. The Office of Planning stands in strong support of Mr. Jay Stone as nominated for the Environmental Advisory Council. The Environmental Advisory Council was established under Chapter 341, which is adjacent to Chapter 343, the Environmental Impact Statement law. And it states that the Environmental Advisory Council's mission is to determine an optimum balance between economic development and environmental quality by discussion between members that represent education, business, and environmental professions. So a balanced advisory council that can ensure that our environmental disclosure law protects our environment, but also acknowledges the importance of having a sustainable economy. Mr. Stone has over 30 years experience. He's an engineer. He's a very thoughtful, knowledgeable individual, and we're really honored that he applied to be a member. And so I urge your support for Mr. Stone.
Thank you, Mary Alice. And let's see, Kathleen Chu from Bowers and Kubota is in support. Dawn Hager-Nordblom is in support. Anyone else wishing to testify on this, on GM 509? We have Mr. Stone on Zoom. Jay?
Aloha.
Good afternoon. Aloha. Would
Senator?
you like to make a statement?
Yes, I'd like to make a statement. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to testify on my own behalf. I just wanted to state again, why I wanted to be a member of the Environmental Advisory Council. I want to contribute to the environmental health, the sustainability of our local communities. I am a native Hawaiian and a civil environmental engineer. So responsible development that incorporates sustainable practices, that acknowledges my Hawaiian heritage is important, I think, for the long-term health for the environment. And so I appreciate this opportunity to testify, and I look forward to serving on the council.
Thank you, Jay. Members, are there any questions, either for Mr. Stone or for the testifiers? I have one. Jay, are there any specific local issues or challenges that you're most passionate about in terms of addressing through the EAC?
I think, to be honest, sea level rise is really important to me. I live on the windward side in Kahalu'u. I've seen over the years, the degradation of our beaches, especially at Kuloa Regional Park. The other thing that I'm also really passionate about is PFAS in drinking water. I am a water treatment plant engineer, meaning I design water treatment, and PFAS is a emerging contaminant that's important for us to remove. So sea level rise being an imminent threat to our community is one thing I'm really passionate about, as well as treatment of drinking water on this island.
Okay.
And in the state.
Thank you. All right, thanks. We're moving on to the next measure, GM 531, excuse me, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Advisory Committee on Pesticides. Gubernatorial nominee Judson Laird for a term to expire June 30th, 2028. And first up is Department of Agriculture.
Hello, Chair. The Department of Agriculture stands on its written testimony in support of this measure.
Thank you, Cedric. Next is Brian Miyamoto from the Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We'll stand on a written testimony supporting this nominee.
Okay, thank you. And that's it as far as the testifiers. Is Mr. Laird online? There he is. Would you like to make a statement, Mr. Laird?
Just thank you for the opportunity to serve the community. I really am honored by this, and I look forward. I think that I get to bring a unique perspective of having farmed on over 500,000 acres over the last 15 years here. So just bringing a Hawaii perspective, farming perspective to pesticides. So I look forward to contributing.
Okay. Members, any questions?
Question, Chair.
Senator McCoy.
Judson, do you think the DOA does an adequate job of regulating pesticide use in the state, or do we need to do more? And if more, what is that more?
I think that there are opportunities to potentially look into general use products, because right now we focus hyper on restricted products. And I think that if there was a way to kind of broaden that to look at all products, I think it's important to balance the pest products as a whole on the farm, making sure that people are rotating, making sure that things are not getting resistance. You know, if we're hitting some bug with the same product over and over again, and just having some sort of oversight on that, I think would be great. I do think that I'm proud of the DOA. I think they do great. So I enjoy working with them, and I look forward to contributing in any way.
Thank you, Chair.
I have a question. Mr. Laird, you've had some experience with large-scale operations, mahi pono, et cetera, and how does that help inform your policies in terms of helping the smaller farms in Hawaii?
I spent my first part of my career out here on somewhat smaller farms, and then also advising smaller farms in some of the local agricultural parks. So I've gotten a chance to spend the first half of my career with small, and then the last 4 or 5 years with the large. I feel like I bring a good perspective on both small or large farming. I think that the major concern that I have with all farming is that making sure that we're being able to take care of the environment. I think we have a very delicate ecosystem, if you will, and we can't just we can't abuse it. We have to make sure that we're rotating our modes of action, that the farmers have the tools that they need, etc.
Okay. Sure. Yes. Senator Richards.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Laird. You said something that piqued my interest. I think you were talking about being more comprehensive in our pesticide use, meaning looking at it a little bit more global. And when I mean that, overarching, so we target and we coordinate the selection of the pesticide a little bit more planned rather than just general use. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, sir. And I think that farming is evolving, you know, in the last 40, 50 years as well. The early days, we just used a big broad spectrum that kills anything it touches. And I think that as farming evolves, we start learning that that's not the right way to do things, because we need different insects to help control insects. So kind of getting that message out there and making sure that we're driving into that more selective product style where it's I'm targeting this pest and only when it reaches that threshold. And if it's not at that threshold, perhaps the environment being balanced would balance it out.
Okay, appreciate that. Yeah, I like that approach. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are moving on to the next measure, GM 532, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Advisory Committee on Pesticides, gubernatorial nominee Nicholas Testa, for a term to expire June 30th, 2028. Department of Ag?
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Cedric Gates here on behalf of the Department of Agriculture. We stand on our written testimony in support of this nominee. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. That's all the testifiers that we had. Is Mr. Testa available? Oh, there you are. Please come forward. Would you like to make a statement?
Sure. I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity to serve the people of Hawaii. Do focus a lot on structural pest control efforts, unlike Mr. Laird in the agricultural department or the farming sector. My responsibilities still remain the same, though, to practice an integrated pest management approach and making sure that pesticides are used wisely and appropriately for the measures that need to be taken.
Well, that's my question, actually. If you could go into a little bit more detail, how do you plan to balance protecting the environment and public health with supporting the pest control industry?
One of my direct responsibilities is educating, especially new people to the industry. I make sure that they understand how to read a label, to follow the label, to protect themselves, protect our customers, protect the environments that they, interact with. And this even goes into businesses and larger scale properties. Making sure that they're only using pesticides that are going to target and take care of the pests that we are actually trying to control, and that it's not a spray and pray approach, which we always try to avoid, just doing what's necessary. And sometimes that's not even using pesticides at all, it's doing exclusion efforts and changing behaviors.
That's interesting. I've never heard the spray and pray approach. That's good. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Any members, any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just follow up, I appreciate that, Chair, spray and pray. That one, again, that's a new one for me, but I was thinking more of the old style was blunderbuss, just shotgun and cross your fingers, right? So,
Shocking approach.
yeah, I appreciate that, and it's sounding similar to what Mr. Laird was talking about, very targeted based upon science and paying attention to what we're trying to target as opposed to just hoping. That a fair statement is what you were saying?
Yeah, very fair.
Okay.
I prefer to use the least amount of pesticides as possible, which is counterintuitive for our industry, being that people usually associate that with pest control. But I find a lot of times you can fix the solution by different measures, so I try to educate everybody that I can on that.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next measure, GM 533, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Advisory Committee on Pesticides. Gubernatorial nominee Janet Ashman. And first up is Department of Ag.
Aloha, Chair, the Department of Ag stands on its written testimony in support of this nominee. Mahalo.
Thank you, Cedric. Christy Martin from CGAPS.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Christy Martin, Coordinating Group on Alien Pest Species, CGAPS. CGAPS is in support of Janet Ashman for this advisory committee. Janet has long participated in CGAPS meetings. We have quarterly meetings where all of the parties that have invasive species responsibilities or interests are able to share information and have a networking exchange. It's a lot like drinking from a fire hose. For people that haven't participated before. Janet always participates. She has for a number of years. She provides information relevant to farming and agricultural industry and also focuses a lot on pesticide concerns. She's also participated in a number of working groups. We have special interest, special topic working groups, and she's also been able to participate in those. She is knowledgeable, responsible, responsive, and just a delight to work with. So we fully support her participation on this committee. Mahalo.
Thank you, Christy. Next is Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. Normally, I would just stand for these nominees, but I'm having a little bit of hearing withdrawal, and this may be my last chance before our session's over, so I'm going to take my full 2 minutes. All joking aside, I'm here for Janet Ashman. She is knowledgeable, she has the expertise and the experience that qualifies, or more than qualifies her for this position. She served before, she's currently serving. She's a farmer, she's an attorney. She understands environmental issues. Again, she is qualified and deserving to serve in this role and continue to serve in this role. I'll wrap it up, Chair. I just wanted to come up and really show the Farm Bureau's support, strong support for this nominee. But on a personal note, I have personally and professionally benefited from Ms. Ashman's just advocacy and her experience and her background. She has made me a better advocate for the Hawaii Farm Bureau and for agriculture because of all the experience and her background and expertise, her dedication and commitment to Hawaii agriculture. We urge strong support for this nominee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Philishima Bakuro Gaizu.
Chair, Vice Chair, Senator Decoy, Senators, I stand by the testimony of strong support to Janet for decades, and I respect her work and also her passion. Thank you.
Thank you. And anyone else wishing to testify on this GM? And we have Ms. Ashman on Zoom. Janet, aloha.
Good afternoon, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards, and members of the committee. Thank you so much for considering me for this confirmation. I have been on the committee before, and I've enjoyed and been honored to work on it. And I hope that I can bring my experience and knowledge to the table again to help the Department of Ag in a really complex area. I think a lot of people have misunderstandings about pesticides in a lot of different ways, and the regulations are difficult to comply with. Sometimes they're so complicated. So I hope to make things more understandable to the public and to farmers. And I think that's really my goal, is to help educate. And I really appreciate all the things that the other nominees said too, because a lot of it has to do with targeting the pests, scouting for pests, just really being aware of other alternatives to using pesticides and to using more up-to-date pesticides than the old ones, some of which have been phased out. Others are still available, but I think as time goes on, we're getting better at more precise pesticides and their use. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet. Members, are there any questions for Ms. Ashman or for the testifiers?
Question, Chair.
Senator Decoy?
Janet, I don't know if it's a question or not. Well, I guess it is. I noticed you sent in a testimony. Why with comments?
What?
Oh,
Normally, I would think you would send in a testimony, in this case, to support yourself, but why with comments?
I just wanted to send in something so that I could access the Zoom. I wasn't sure if that was
No, thank you, Janet. I mean, I've gotten the opportunity to watch you work and do a lot of education within our communities. And, I'm grateful that you're wanting to serve again. So thank you for that. But just thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm turning red.
Senator Richards?
Yeah, thank you. Janet, good to see you. And again, thank you for stepping up. This is a recurrent theme about targeting use of pesticides. Can you expand just a little bit on that? You said you supported what's been said, but it's a different shift in pesticide management. Can you comment, please?
Yeah, Judson Laird mentioned it too, as far as the broad-based attack mode that we turned to, meaning decades ago, turned to, because there weren't products available that just did target specific types of pests or modalities, and we've gotten better. Registrants, the producers of these products, have gotten better at targeting, And in my own personal experience, I think I mentioned this to Chair Gabbard, you know, we're in trouble in a lot of areas with drugs, pesticides, as far as, for example, something that maybe people can relate to in their pets and their livestock. You know, you've got products that are older and were working well for a long time, but the pests, in the case I'm thinking of, parasites, have developed a resistance to them, and they're no longer effective, or they're not as effective. And so it's really difficult when you only have a few active ingredients that you can use, and you've got to be developing more along the way that are targeted and that don't, you know, hurt the animal, but do hurt the pest that's killing the animal. So that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not sure if that's what you had in mind.
You know, but it does, that's the direction we're headed, being very focused on what we're trying to accomplish. So I appreciate that, and I really appreciate the candidates. That's a recurrent theme. So again, thanks so much for willing to go back at it and give another shot. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Janet, you had mentioned in your statement about the regulations. What specific challenges do you see in current pesticide regulations?
It's hard all over the place. It's not just our state. Every state, it's a complicated area. And so the regulations, I mean, if a layperson just thinks to himself, okay, I want to know more about this. I'm not necessarily talking about farmers, but homeowners to protect their buildings, their homes. You try looking at the regulations, whether at the federal level or the state level, and it's overwhelming. I'm not sure that we can make them perfect, but, and we did just go through a revision not too long ago, 2019, I think. But it's overwhelming. So I know the department has done a great job lately in their education division of getting out there and trying to educate everybody, including the public, on how to use these things and how to read a label. It's a big job. So that's what I was referring to.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to the next measure. GM 557, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Environmental Advisory Council. Gubernatorial nominee Dawn Hager Nordblom, for term to expire June 30th, 2027. First up is OPSD, Mary Alice Evans.
Chair, Vice Chair, Member DeCoit, and Member Rhodes. Dawn Hager-Blomstrom has a lot of experience as an environmental professional, a planner. She's done EISs and EAs. She understands Chapter 343 and our Hawai'i administrative rules, 11.200.1, and her interim appointment to the Advisory Commission, she contributed a lot to our discussions on how to find that balance in disclosure of environmental impacts so that decision makers have the information that they need to make informed decisions. So I'm very delighted that she's willing to be available for a confirmation. I urge you to support her confirmation.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure, GN 557? Okay, do we have Dawn? There she is. Would you like to make a statement, Dawn?
Yes, Chair, thank you so much. And I appreciate Mary Alice's statement about my professionalism. I feel that I could bring a lot to the Environmental Advisory Committee. I've worked on the state and the county and a little bit on the federal side. And I'm also, I see it daily how environmental law impacts projects, either past or present. So I appreciate the fact that you guys will allow me to continue serving as vice chair. Thank you.
Okay. Members, any questions? So yeah, I do have a question. What do you, is the biggest, Don, the biggest challenge facing EAC? And in the EAC fulfilling its role, and then how do you propose to address it? What's the number
Well,
one,
I do
top of the list?
is to have more volunteers to serve on the Environmental Advisory Committee. In this day and age, everyone's quite busy, and I know that it's a time commitment and it's consuming, and some people may not want to volunteer, but to step up and to serve the state, it's really important. I think that's the most important thing. Right now, we have 4 members out of 13, and we lost maybe 6 or 7 members this year. So we definitely need more members. And I feel that we would be able to serve the public if there is a variety of members in different professions. Right now, we have Jay, who's wonderful, and we have Michelle and Rachel, and they're botanists and biologists, and there's a good team, but we could use more people as a team.
What kind of outreach is going on to get more members, to get 9 more members?
I think that we've asked quite a bit of people personally, but I'm not quite sure if the call has gone out from the governor's office. Certainly, we like to see more people volunteer out of the goodness of their hearts. But like I said, I know that it can be challenging and time consuming for people, and people have priorities right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the final measure on today's 1 o'clock agenda is GM 697, submitting for consideration and confirmation as the Deputy Director of the Department of Agriculture, gubernatorial nominee, Dean Matsukawa, for a term to expire December 7th, 2026. And first up, we have Department of Land and Natural Resources, DLNR. Thank you, Pua. Sharon Hurd from the Department of Ag, Director.
Good afternoon. Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards, Senators DeCoit and Rhodes. Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture, Chairperson, here to testify in strong support of Dean Matsukawa as deputy, his nomination, and hopefully eventual confirmation. Dean, the fact that Dean has been with the department for 30 years should be, a big plus as to his confirmation, and it is. In those 30 years, he's gotten to know the staff, the leadership, and more importantly, the rank and file. He knows that he's taken off running. That in itself is a big plus. What I'm here to tell you is that Dean brings with him additional, kind of like a superpower, you might say, in that he is one of the upon surveying the rank, the industry, their challenge is access to capital. It's very important for them to have that. And Dean brings with him an intimate understanding of what those needs are and what to consider for awarding them that capital. He's talked to the farmers, he knows their challenges. He has been doing this work for the department on behalf of the farmers and ranchers, taking their perspective. But did you know that Dean is also a farmer? He's been a farmer he was managing his family farm. So he brings with him that sensitivity as well. The other day, we were at a silent invasion Eat, Think, Drink session where Dean got to tell the current class of the Ag Leadership Foundation, class number 18, that he was actually a member of the Ag Leadership Foundation, class number 6. So he's like the OG of the industry. And they looked at him in amazement, like, you're still around? But yeah, he was class 6 and, addressing class 18. So he brings with him, besides his 30 years, he brings with him a deep, intimate understanding of what the farmers go through. Access to capital is very important. We have a bill going through now that we hope is going to pass.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up is Will Kane from the Office of the Governor. In support, Tommy Johnson from Department of Corrections and Rehab. Tommy here. In support. Jade Boutte from Adila Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. In support, Brenna Hashimoto from Department of Human Resources. In support, Wendy Gady from ADC.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Wendy Gady with the Agribusiness Development Corp. And we stand in support because this nominee has the soft skills that we need in the industry. For any questions.
Thank you, Wendy. And Amanda Shaw.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Amanda Shaw, on behalf of Local Resource Conservation Development Council, we stand on our written testimony and strong support.
Thank you, Amanda. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have our written testimony. The Hawaii Farm Bureau is in strong support of this nominee. Farm Bureau has had the pleasure of working with Mr. Matsukawa for decades. He is the ideal candidate, ideal nominee for the deputy position. Just look at his impressive resume. Third generation farmer, 30 years public servant at Department of Agriculture. You heard the chair talk about experience there. Supported not only by industry, but if you look at the testimony by the department themselves, by some of the staff that are there. As a farmer, he's well positioned to understand and help our farming community. As a DOA 30-year employee, he's well positioned to help the department navigate through our challenges that we're seeing with biosecurity, as the chair said, with capital access. Again, he is more than qualified for this deputy position. We are in strong support. Look at his work, look at his resume, and look at the supporting testimony. We ask this committee and the Senate strong support for this nominee, well deserving. And one last thing, Chair. He is a reluctant nominee in the most positive way. He didn't seek out the job. He was sought out to fill the position. Again, the Hawaii Farm Bureau stands in strong support of this nominee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of Mr. Matsukawa.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Cedric Gates.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Cedric Gates, here in strong support of the nomination for Mr. Dean Matsukawa as the Deputy Director for the Department of Agriculture. As previous speakers mentioned, his extensive experience within the Department of Agriculture makes him a very qualified candidate, being that he has farming backgrounds from his family's farm, also contributes to his knowledge of what the struggles are that farmers are currently facing today. And being in a role of leadership within the Department of Agriculture, I really believe he can push these initiatives that can help out our local farmers, like access to capital and other incentives to get people back to farming, because that's what we really need. And I think his background will strengthen the leadership within DOA to be able to be more effective and to provide better leadership in terms of moving the agriculture sector forward. I'm confident that Mr. Matsukawa will continue to lead the Department of Agriculture forward positively and effectively, and his nomination and confirmation will undoubtedly benefit our farmers, our community, and the broader agriculture sector in Hawaii. Mahalo nui loa for considering my testimony in support of Mr. Dean Matsukawa. Mahalo.
Thank you, Seth. Phyllis Shimabukuro Geyser.
Aloha, good afternoon, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards, Senator Decoit, and Senator Rhodes. Phyllis Shimabukuro Geyser, I'm here as an individual supporting, in strong support, the nomination of Dean Matsukawa. I've been, had the privilege to work with Dean closely for 8 years, and during those 8 years, we went through COVID-19 together. He's always been very dedicated to agriculture, always been a team player for the department. And he actually doesn't only participate, but he offers ideas and solutions to help the department strategically. And he's very logical, very calm. And, he brings not only the private sector experience, but the government experience too. So I think he'll be a great asset to the department, assisting the chair and also the industry. So mahalo, thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Dean.
Thank you, Phyllis. Anyone else wishing to testify?
Yes, Chair.
Please.
Chair, Vice Chair, and members. I served on Mary Alice Evans with the Office of Planning. I served on the Board of Agriculture's DBED's designated alternate for over 8 years, and also worked with Dean Matsukawa when he worked with us as a co-lender with DBED, with a co-lender to agricultural businesses. I think he understands that farming is a business and that it has to be economically feasible. It is also a public service, of course, but if it doesn't break even, it's in trouble. So that's why I would strongly support and urge you to recommend it by consent on this nominee.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Anyone else?
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Christy Martin. On my own behalf, I'm sorry I didn't submit testimony on this. I was sort of laser focused, but I didn't want my silence to be non-support. I've had very little opportunity to work with Dean, but every single time I have, he's been open. Sorry, excuse me. He's been open. He's been willing to talk and problem solve. I mean, and that's just within the a couple of months that I've known him. So I'm eager to work with him more in this capacity. Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Matsukawa. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Snuck up on me.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Senators. Greg Takashima here as an individual. I am in support of the nomination of Dean Matsukawa as the Deputy Director of the Department of Ag. He has assisted the Plant Industry Division, Pesticides branch, as well as the Plant Quarantine branch and Plant Pest Control branch with the implementation of Act 231. And that has been an enormous help with both the branches themselves as well as the division and the industry. So I am in full support. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call, anyone else? You better sit down.
Sorry, I was on a phone call. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Jonathan Ho, testifying as an individual. I've worked with the department for about 17 years now and have had a little bit of interaction with Mr. Matsukawa. But ever since he's come on board as the deputy, hit the ground running, very calm, very collected, very logical, reason-based, not excitable. And those are all things that a leader should show. And I believe that his confirmation will enhance the department's ability to effectuate the massive task that it's obligated to do. And thank you for the opportunity to testify. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Matsukawa, your turn.
Hello, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards, members of the committee. My name is Dean Matsukawa, and I would like to thank you and the committee for taking the time to meet with me and for considering my nomination for the Deputy of the Chair of the Department of Agriculture. I'd also like to thank Chair Hurd, Governor Green, and his staff for nominating me. It would be a great honor to be able to continue serving the agriculture industry and the department as I have done for the past 4 decades. Even though this is a great honor, I understand the tremendous responsibility that comes along with the position. And throughout this process, I was greatly impressed with the passion for agriculture and biosecurity by the ag community, department personnel, other government entities, and the public, as well as the dedication of the legislators that work tirelessly on behalf of their constituents. Agriculture is the bedrock of our civilization and has a long history in Hawaii, from fish ponds and mahi'ai growing taro, sweet potato, and breadfruit, to paniolos and the sugar and pineapple plantations, to current-day diversified agriculture. The ability to feed ourselves has always been important and vital. The agriculture industry today is facing more challenges than ever, from invasive species, climate change, lack of affordable land, increasing costs for transportation, fertilizer, chemical supply, and other inputs. The primary role of the Department of Agriculture should be to fully support, assist, and develop the agricultural industry. Agriculture is the only industry in the state that has a department solely dedicated to it. And having the number of farms declining 10% over the past 5 years, based on the Census of Agriculture, should be a major concern. My goal, if confirmed, will be to continue to work on turning around this trend and put the department on sounder footing with sufficient personnel, resources to be able to fully support the industry and allow it to meet current and future challenges. Having a strong Department of Agriculture supporting all forms of government, of agriculture, and by working together with our hardworking farmers and ranchers, will help ensure Hawaii's agricultural legacy continues well into the future and continues to provide Hawaii citizens with local meats and produce. The quality of life here in the state would be greatly diminished without these open spaces, seasonal and traditional crops such as mangoes, lychees, pineapples, taro, and traditions such as cattle roundups and rodeos. People say that the public is far removed from the farm, and that's because American agriculture has been so efficient and productive that it has been taken for granted. But if people can't eat, you will immediately see how important the industry is and how agriculture affects us on a daily basis. The department role is to support this important industry and to care for Hawaii's environment. How would it be if we could no longer have coconut trees or native bird species? A short while ago, willy trees were under attack by a urethane gall wasp, and the department brought in biocontrol agents from Africa to control the pests, saving these willy trees. I was asked why I returned to service after retiring, and like I say, there's many days I question that, but it is because agriculture is important and the department is important, and that's why I came back. And thank you for your consideration of my nomination for Deputy of the Department, and I hope to be able to work with you to move the department and agriculture forward. Thank you.
Members, any questions?
Chair.
Senator Decoy.
I had a great interview with you after I jumped in on his interview. I figured 2 birds for one, but then you've been around the block and back, and what I like about you is you're very open. I'm gonna question, let's look at comments, but the people that testified on your behalf is so diverse. Some of them that don't like each other says a lot about testimony they've given for you, especially when they see Lon Perez's name there. But I think you have the skills, the mindset, and the humbleness. You have the background behind it. I know we have our challenges. I think if you take a look at the subject matter of agriculture in general and how the legislature has reacted to much of the struggles that we've had this year, you find a lot of the resources I believe that you guys have never had incorporated within the Senate add-on of the budget. with that being said, I strongly support you. As we've always said, no water, no food, no eat. So thank you for wanting to serve. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Chair.
Senator Richards?
Yeah. First of all, the list of testifiers, like Senator DeCoite said, that's the who's who of agriculture in the state, which is actually impressive because it goes across crops, livestock. It's very broad spectrum. And of course,
And let me interject, there are a total of 45 in support and none opposed.
so, yeah, thank you, Chair. The point on that is that you do have broad support. I was seriously questioning your mental capacity after coming back from retirement, but okay. We had a good interview, and I don't really have any questions per se, Dean. I really look forward to working with you. You know, comments were made about being real steady and non-overreactive, and that's important. I will hold the comment you made about having rodeo part, and Chair, we can talk about making sure we get rodeo part of agricultural leases, so we'll work on that one together. Okay, but I do look forward and wholeheartedly support. Thank you, Chair.
So a question on, how do you plan to balance the support for large-scale ag operations with the needs of smaller family farms and beginning farmers?
I think the role of the department is to support all of agriculture. We need to develop new farmers to replace a lot of our aging farmers and the farmers that we lost. As you see, the number went down, right? You know, but
I get twins,
you know,
10-year-old.
But yes, so it's supporting the smaller new farmers to grow up into the larger scale operations. We did a study internally in the department. We found that from 70 to 100,000 in gross sales, those were the most profitable operations. So we try to, right now the census is showing we have a lot of small farmers. And that's why we have food hubs and that type of thing to consolidate their sales and everything. But if we can get them up into the larger scale farming, that's the goal of the department. The larger scale guys are very important because they produce the bulk of the food. So we have to make sure that those operations continue. And it's great to see stuff like Mahipono and everybody coming on and trying more larger scale agriculture. So I think on both, the department's role is to support all of agriculture.
Okay. Is that it?
Chair,
Yes.
if I can just add on, you know, Dean, I'm glad you made that point clear. You know, the large scale farmers, the impacts that large scale farmers have had as they left us have put a burden on the small scale. As you know, we depend on the supplies of irrigation, fertilizers, and so forth. It is completely diminished our cooperative on Molokai, because now the smaller scale farmers are struggling to, whether it be water costs increase because of the lack of acreage being grown, but more so that we cannot fill one container to have prices come down. Is that something you want to consider, or have you considered those things as well as we well round the ag industry?
Yes, I well understand it. You know, when we had our banana farm, we kind of piggybacked on the sugar and pine, bringing in chemicals and fertilizers. So we were able to get a better deal with that. But one of the things that I was thinking is that on the mainland, there's purchasing co-ops where the farmers all get together and purchase together and they can get a better deal, where I don't see too much of that in the state, and that's something I would be interested in pursuing.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right, if it's okay with the committee, we'll just go right into decision making. Thank you.
Thank you.
And before I get into each of those, I just want to say thank you to all the nominees. Thank you for stepping forward to serve our community and our state. Very much appreciated. We'll start off with Governor's Message 509 for consideration of Jay Stone to the Environmental Advisory Council for a term to expire June 30th, 2028. The chair's recommendation will be to advise and consent. Any discussion? Vice Chair. Chair votes aye.
Thank you, Chair. On Governor's Message 509, Recommendation advise and consent. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Awa.
Aye.
Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. GM 531 for Justin Laird to the nominee for the advisory Advisory Committee on Pesticides. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Thank you. On Governor's Message 531 for the 5 members in attendance. Anybody voting with reservations? Any no votes? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion adopted.
Thank you, members. GM 532 for Nicholas Testa to the Advisory Committee on Pesticides. Chair's recommendation is to advise and consent. Chair votes aye. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Thank you, Chair. On Governor's Message 532, recommendation advise and consent of the 5 members. Anybody voting with reservations? Anybody no vote? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion adopted.
Thank you, members. On GM 533, gubernatorial nominee Janet Ashman for the Advisory Committee on Pesticides. Chair's recommendation is for advise and consent. Any discussion? Chair
Yes,
votes aye.
Chair. Just quickly, Jen Ashman has been a personal friend for a long time. I just want to disclose that I am planning on voting because I don't think there's a conflict, but I just wanted to disclose that.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. So on Governor's Message 533, recommendation to advise and consent of the 5 members in attendance. Anybody voting with reservations? Any no votes? Chair, you have 5 in favor.
And the final measure, Governor's Message 557, well, not the final, excuse me, second to the last, is for Don Hager Nordblom to the Environmental Advisory Council. The recommendations for advise and consent. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Chair. Chair,
Yes.
just one quick, noticing the statement that Don had made, 4 members out of 13. I encourage my colleagues to ask for the vacancies of our boards and commissions so we can help solicit the filling of all these positions so that they can continue at quorum and to find the best candidates out there as possible to serve in a capacity to help us fill all those seats. Thank you.
Thank you.
On Governor's Message 557, Chair's recommendations to advise and consent of the 5 members in attendance. Is there any no votes? Any reservations? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion adopted.
Thank you, members. And on the final measure, GM 697 for the Deputy Director for the Department of Agriculture, Dean Matsukawa, for a term to expire December 7th, 2026. Chair's recommendation is to advise and consent. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
On Governor's Message 697, Chair recommendation is advise and consent of the 5 members in attendance. Are there any voting with reservations? Any no votes? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
And that concludes the 1 o'clock